Hi creative friends, this is Soraya and thank you so much for being here. So this is part 2 of me doing a video where I started from scratch and I'm going to bring it to completion. So this is probably going to be my, I think, third layer. So it's a middle layers. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to get out my viewfinder and take a look at what I like. And honestly, there's not a whole lot that I like in this spread right now. I am really liking that, text and collage, some of the pops of pink. I'm loving this red over here, but I don't know. It's my favorite color palette, which is the complementary colors blue and orange, but for some reason I'm just not really feeling it. So it's totally okay if you do your first and second layers and you just look at it the next day and you're like, oh my god, I totally do not like most of what I put down. That is totally fine. So what I'm going to do is I have my blue Posca marker and I'm just going to try to make some interesting little dots here and maybe add some gold to the page and maybe see if that's going to kind of lift it up a little bit, because I just feel like this orange is too flat. So I'm not really sure if I was using, like if I mixed it with something. I just don't even remember now, but it's just a bit too flat for me. I tend to like a brighter orange, so maybe this gold is going to lift it up just a little bit. I'm not sure. But I'm going to keep on working. I'm not going to, just say, well, I don't like a lot of this or most of this, so I'm just, going to cover it all up. I'm not going to do that. I'm bringing in some yellow over here because I'm thinking that maybe the yellow is going to change something. And sometimes one color will change the entire page and the direction that the page is going in. And a lot of times I don't know what that color is. Like I might think it's a yellow, but it may not be a yellow. Now this does lift it up quite a bit, but I don't know if it's doing enough. So I'm just gonna keep on working. And I have this yellow poster paint that I picked up from Oaxaca, and it's a really bright orange. So maybe I'm gonna try that out. And just, see, I'm liking that a lot more. Now, of course, all of these things are subjective. Somebody else might look at the orange I had and they might really like that orange, or somebody might look at this whole layout and think it's garish and just awful, and or somebody might agree with me and say, oh, that orange, this orange I'm putting right here, it really lifts things up. So all of these things are very subjective, and not everybody is going to like your art, and that's totally okay. Because if you look at artists throughout history, a lot of very famous artists now, during their time, they were actually reviled and mocked, and their work was ridiculed mercilessly. So even the great artists of history, now they are getting their props, but during their lifetimes, not everybody liked their work. And even today, not everybody is going to like, say, a Picasso, or not everybody is going to like, Van Gogh or Dali or whoever. So art is very subjective, and I think for me, the number one lesson that I have learned which I wish I would have learned sooner rather than later, but I'm glad that I learned it at all, is to just be true to yourself, because not everybody is going to support you and, you know, like what you're doing and appreciate what you're doing. And that's okay. You know, it's okay. Everybody has different tastes and ideas about the way things should be, and that's totally fine. So I am just trying to lift things up a little bit, and I'm gonna bring in my cashew because I think another issue I'm having here is that the tones are too, except for the white here, the tones are too kind of middle value. So there's not enough lights and darks in the page, on the page. So I think I'm just gonna kind of try to lighten things up a little bit. And so just keeping with the circles. And so even though when I first started this video, I said it was middle layers, I might actually, this might be like part 2 of first layers, because, you know, I still only had 1 layer on here. So the way I work is my first 1 to 2 layers, I call them first layers. And then my 3rd layer and my 4th layer, I call those middle layers. And then the last layers are what I finish up with. But, you know, sometimes a painting might have like 6 or 7 layers. In that case, it might have 3 first layers. I hope I'm making sense here. So this actually might still be my first layer. And I didn't know that when I started the video. I just thought, oh, well, I've already worked on my first layer, so I'm gonna jump right into my middle layers, but I'm thinking that this is still my first layer. And, you know, that just happens sometimes, and it's okay. Sometimes things come together really fast. Like I made a video, I think it was like, there were 2 parts to it, and everything came together like really just like serendipity. And I think that's what I called it. Actually, I call the name of the video series Serendipity, because it just really just was like, wow, everything just clicked, you know? But sometimes things take a little bit longer, and that's totally okay. So I'm just working on this, and I know it looks like a big mess, but I always say, you know, when things look like a big mess, it's a good thing, and it's a step in the right direction, because I want a big juicy mess. And I've mentioned this so many times, I probably should stop mentioning it in my videos, but you know, when I look at my work from say 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was like really stilted. And now I look at it and I cringe, because it just had no juiciness to it. It was all pre-planned, and I was worried too much about, you know, what everybody else thought, and, you know, it had to be a certain way, and, you know, etc., etc. So I just look at it like, hey, if it's a big juicy mess, I'm heading in the right direction, and that's a good thing. So I'm actually liking this a lot more now than I was when I first started this video. And I know it's still like very chaotic, but I am really loving it a lot more. It looks more brighter. The colors are more vibrant, and it's not so dull, I guess. I just didn't like that burnt orange. Okay, so I am going to So if you hear some sighing in the background, that's just Maxie. He is trying to find his comfy spot. in my studio. And there he is. I think he might have found it. So I'm really thinking that this corally peach here, peachy pink, it really lifted things up. So let me just say that when I first put this yellow down, I thought the yellow was going to lift things up, and it made a little bit of a difference, but it didn't really change the trajectory of my page, and it didn't lift things up as much as I thought it would have. But then I kind of tried this out here, and this is an orange mixed with pink, and so it turned into this like coral color, like a salmon color, and this really, to my eyes, really lifts things up and changes everything. So just keep on experimenting, keep on trying out new things, because if you're not happy with one thing, just try out something else, and you just never know what's going to work. I mean, sometimes you know right off the bat what you want to do, and then sometimes you don't. So one of the reasons why I leave all my mistakes and little adventures in my videos and I don't edit them out is because I just think they're such a great learning tool to see that we have similar struggles. Like all artists, I think we tend to have similar struggles. So when I leave my mistakes in, I don't really look at them as mistakes. I just look at them as, hey, this might not have worked out, but it's leading me to something that will work out, So that way it's not like a mistake. It's just a path to, it's a path to what is going to work. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this cashew, and I'm just using my fingers because I want to just make some interesting marks here. And fingerprints make some really gorgeous, just really interesting marks. And it's so personal. It's like, nobody has your fingerprint. So it still looks pretty chaotic and pretty messy, but I am totally fine with that. I'm just going to use my Stabilo pencil here because I want some dark marks. And I just want to kind of like randomly make some marks here. And whether this stays or not, it doesn't matter. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm simply just in the moment. Because, that's what the first layers are all about. And this is still a first layers. So I'm just bringing in some kind of marks here and neutrals at the same time. And I know this looks really, really chaotic, but I am much happier with it now than I was when I first started this video. And so to me, this is a big win. So I'm going to leave it here. And this is the end of the second video. And so this is still my first layers. And I know this was really confusing. It confused me as well. And I didn't anticipate this being my first layers still. But I'm going to let it completely dry, and then I am going to come back to it. So if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. I hope you have learned a little something from this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.